Hey guys, to help run the forums, host the website, and travel, we've introduced a universal service fee for in-depth coverage, including this video. My goal is to be unbiased and transparent. It's a privilege to serve you. This is not an endorsement. Let's get into it. Hey guys, we're here at the E-Lux headquarters in Newport Beach, and I was hanging out with Pat and his dog. Who is this?
Edward.
Is Edward?
Yep.
And then that's Anna Marie, your wife, right?
Yes.
So, you know, we pulled up, we were getting ready to go do some reviews over here, and you were saying that you've got maybe the Tahoe Sport?
Yes.
And what were you saying about riding this thing?
I got it based on your videos, and you know.
High five for that, buddy. Thank you.
And I wanted something to enjoy, and I've just found I'm getting a lot more cardio. I never imagined getting a cardio workout, but the bike gets you motivated to go out ride more. You're riding further distances because you can cover more distance.
And you're not worried about like, am I going to make it or am I going to get tired?
Yeah, but you just, and then also the competitive spirit. You want to go faster. The more you pedal, the faster you're going.
He's competitive?
So,
this guy racing around?
Yeah, so
wait, is that why she has to get one now? Is she got to keep up?
So I found that I'm going out and getting more cardio on the bike than I had. Doesn't show, but I'm out getting a lot of good workouts, so it's been fantastic.
Fantastic. And you're obviously excited. You've been cruising around. What do you think so far?
I've been waiting for this for a couple months, I think.
About a month.
Yeah.
Let's go over to it real quick. So Anna Marie was saying they were waiting for the step-through version. It was more approachable, but then see how low the seat is. How tall are you?
I'm 5'2", so if you're 5'2" or under, it depends also if you have a short frame or a long frame up top. I couldn't use the suspension seat, so they actually took the suspension seat off and put it on a bar to make it fit me, but we're gonna see if we can get it modified so I can get that nice
even lower. Yeah,
right?
There we go. I'm sorry, I was giving you the thumbs up. Give me a high five.
Okay.
So what she's saying is like, see, they took out the suspension seat post, which adds about 3 inches of height at the top of the seat tube, and so they're looking at maybe modifying this so that they could still get the suspension seat post, but you got to be careful when there's the battery. You don't want to bonk into that. And these saddles, this has the hybrid suspension system where it's actually springs under the saddle. It's a nice gel feel. And with those swept back handlebars and that suspension fork, you know, it's especially with the fat tires.
Are really nice too. I have small hands, and it fits really nice as well, and it's great. Even without the suspension and riding it, it feels comfortable. I'm excited to get on it. My husband keeps going on bike rides without me.
Oh,
and I'm a little bit jealous, so I get to join him now and compete with him.
Well, that's why he's racing. He's like, I gotta get home. She's gonna get angry.
And I can't say enough about JP and all the staff here. They've been fantastic, trying to make changes for us and make sure that we get what we need and to keep us happy, and it says something about them and how they run their company.
Thank you so much for sharing your story, Anna Marie, Pat, Anna Maria. I'm sorry about that. I want to get it right.
It's okay.
Hope you guys have a great time with this bike.
And thanks for all your great videos.
Thank you. That's what it's for, you know, help people out. Hey guys, we're looking at a brand new bike from E-Lux. This is called the Malibu, and it seems like they're naming their bikes after just beautiful cities on the West Coast. I'm actually with one of the founders here. This is JP. How's it going, buddy?
Hey, good. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man.
Excellent.
You know, the last time we met, we were hanging out in a park and we were looking at some of your other bikes. You've got some it's an amazing lineup of cruisers and kind of California inspired bikes. Am I getting that right?
Thanks. Yeah. That's kind of, we're here in Southern California, so it's been an inspiration to the design of the bikes that we have here. You know?
Nice weather, really relaxed, you know, and
exactly.
You can see that in geometry and some of the classical styling. I was comparing this to the Newport, which is a bike was that one like your launch models, or you've had it for a while? Yeah,
that was the second model that we came out with after the Tahoe, which was a fat tire cruiser. And
right.
The Newport was going to be our first bike, but took a little bit longer to get the production going with that, and so that's gone through a couple of different changes. Now we're on really kind of the second version of that bike, and the Newport it's kind of a classic beach cruiser that has a really powerful motor and great powerful battery and all.
Swept back handlebars, a lot of the same stuff that we see here. The big difference I noticed is that the Newport has a battery pack that's built into a rear rack, and the pedal position's just slightly different, but I would say these are very comparable. And what you guys have done is move that battery weight low and center on the frame, and it does, it bulges up a little bit. I would call this a semi-integrated battery design, but then it allows you to have a little bit more weight and kind of a lower position for any gear that you put on this rack. It is rated at 25 kilograms. That's roughly 55 pounds. They've got the built-in bungee cord. And they've got this standard gauge tubing below that thicker tubing up top. So it's sturdy, but then they've got that for mounting like panniers or panniers that can clip on. So I really think that's neat. And they've got a blaze light integrated into the back here, and you'll notice that it's set in a little bit, so it's protected if the bike gets tipped in shipping or whatnot. That's going to help to protect it. And JP was showing me earlier, they've got this little metal tube right here that houses the electrical cable, and that brings that back to the front, actually down to the motor controller down here, so they run off of the battery pack. Same thing up here, blaze light, it's integrated, it points where you steer. Really nice setup. And just looking at these colors, this is the gunmetal, kind of a metallic color. They do have matte black. They've got this like kind of a pink color, and there's a powder blue and a gloss white. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. And we also have a seafoam green color as well.
Kind of a special edition, I heard, yeah?
Yeah, so that's kind of a special edition.
And they do have a step through. Okay, so, you know, the bike, it comes in one frame size, but two different frame styles. So this is kind of the cantilever high step that we're looking at here. And then the step through, this is actually a prototype frame. And so I was told that the top tube would come even a little bit lower. They are going to have bottle cage bosses, and they're probably going to lower that seat tube a little bit, because what they found is that some individuals who have the shorter inseam, you know, they can step over the tube, but then they also want to be able to reach those pedals nicely. So they're really listening to user feedback. Love the swept back bar. We've got those ergonomic grips locking, so they're not going to twist on you. And they've got these hydraulic disc brakes. That's such a big deal, but not just good stopping power, 180 millimeter rotors. You know, that's kind of what you'd expect. They also have motor inhibitors with brake light activation. So when you pull either one of these, you can see back here that light comes on, and that happens even if the lights aren't activated. Okay, so, you know, I've got this one booted up because I wanted to show you guys that, but you can turn the backlighting on the display and the lights on and off just by tapping that power button. So now the lights are off. This headlight, it's not shining. That backlight is not shining. JP, can you pull that brake lever? Look at that. Yeah, it's got the brake light. So that's a really nice safety feature that's, in the last year and a half, I've started seeing that from some companies, but only some. You know, it's a nice little extra feature. It adds to probably the complexity to have the lights wired in, and maybe bumps up the price a little bit, but the price on these isn't too bad, $22.95.
Oh, that's right. $22.95 is the price that we're at. So we want to really come to market with a really good high quality bike with all the features that you want, but also to try to bring it in at an affordable price range.
And it is. And they've got some other bikes we're going to be looking at. This is called the Malibu Sport, but they've also got the Malibu GT, so like kind of grand touring. We'll check that out in another review, and it has a couple upgrades, including a larger battery pack. So when you look at this battery, this thing is 48 volts, 14 amp hours. So it's already a pretty sizable pack, but then when you pair that with, in this case, 500 watt nominal, 900 watt peak output, it's going to be a Dapu planetary geared hub motor, black, matches the spokes, matches those wider rims, and that supports the Schwalbe Big Apple tires. Balloon, it's kind of that comfort orientation, and you can see that, you know, it's also got a puncture protection lining here, performance line, race guard, light skin. So these are 26 by 2.15, so a little bit fatter. That gives you some stability. It gives you some comfort. They've got these nice, I think these are 68 millimeter fenders, paint matched. Love that. Paint matched chain cover, paint matched suspension fork up here too. I mean, that does cost a little bit extra, and yet the price on these to me is still very reasonable, especially because you guys also sell through a number of shops, and some people, depending on their location, will be able to go and test ride these, and other people, they can buy it and have it shipped.
That's correct. Yes, we do have probably about 35 dealers across the states now, and
wow.
And we sell direct, but also through dealers, because we want people to be able to ride the bikes and also have the bike serviced and supported by the dealer network.
Yeah.
So, you know, and but we also sell direct to people that are maybe in more rural areas, or maybe where we don't have a dealer part of the dealer network developed yet.
But the last time we hung out, I think that was like 2016. Did the company launch in like 2015? Or what was the
2014 is when we started.
Wow.
And we came to market with the first bike in the middle of 2015. I think it was the end of June is when we started selling bikes.
So you guys have been around. You got a year-long comprehensive warranty, and then I was told that, you know, for that first year the battery is completely covered, but then they sort of prorate it after that, because, you know, batteries do over time, they kind of degrade. Is that right?
That's correct, yes. And You know, the battery's the most expensive part on the bike, and it's really important, we believe at E-Lux, to have really high quality components in the battery. So we only use Samsung or Panasonic cells, and you know, we don't have too many problems with the battery because of the quality that we get.
Good to know.
So
great to know. And you know, coming back from the rear rack battery, for me that's the highlight, bringing that weight low and center. You know, some of the weight is back there in that hub motor, but now bringing it forward a little bit, you know, 7.7 pounds on that battery. I weighed it earlier today, and it was, you know, that's pretty standard, but the way that it's semi-integrated, it kind of opens up the frame here a little bit, and I'm told that this is where those bottle cage bosses would be. Again, this is kind of a fresh off the press prototype frame, so both of these bikes would have bottle cage bosses, and you know, sometimes they have the bottle cages where you can put the bottle in from the side, because there isn't a whole lot of room above it, because they've sloped that top tube to keep that standover height relatively low. While we're down here, let's talk about these 170 millimeter standard crank arms, Pro Wheel Forge. We've got these composite fenders with a bit of a rubber tread on top. I personally, you know, they're these bigger ones that you can get off Amazon or at your local shop where they have pins that can be adjusted and give you a little bit more traction, but this is the kind of pedal that if you slip off, you're not going to cut your shins, so that's kind of nice. They've got a kickstand with 40 millimeter mounting provisions way back there, so they're not going to collide with these pedals if you're backing the bike out of your garage. It gives you plenty of stability for if you're adding a bunch of gear on that rack, or maybe even a child seat, because I think that is compatible with a lot of the child seats. They clamp on from the sides. We've got a suspension seat post for comfort right here, about 40 millimeters of travel. That is a Zoom suspension seat post, 27.2 millimeters if you wanted to replace that with something a little bit fancier like the Suntour NCX, and that is what comes on the GT version of the bike.
That's correct.
Nice oversized saddle, really comfortable, kind of padded. It's got these rubber bumpers down there. And while we were on the other side here and I was pointing out that controller box, it looks like they've externalized that, probably so that they can use a higher amperage and kind of handle more current and diagnose things separately and replace this a little bit easier than if it was built into the battery. But the battery does have some sort of a controller unit because it has a built-in USB port right there, 5 volts. So that's kind of nice. Not only could you take this off and have a picnic and be charging your phone or maintaining your phone, but you can also run maybe a phone or GPS off of another charging port that's built right into the base of the control panel right here, right? So you can be pressing buttons, a little wire could be running over here, you could have your phone, and I just think that's so cool. So you have a ton of battery capacity and then multiple ways to use that. But again, you know, the controller box, it's kind of positioned down here. I like that they have fenders because it is right there. It's a plastic casing and maybe a little bit actually, is this aluminum? It feels pretty tough.
Yeah, I think it's that's a metal cover there on the case.
Okay.
And but we basically, with the controller, we wanted to be able to run higher current, and with the smaller controller in a more confined space, it creates a lot of heat.
That's right.
So it's difficult on the components. So
and then the higher, with the other bike, they've got an even more powerful motor on the GT version, and so do you use a similar controller because it's external as well?
We do. We use the same size controller, but it's a little bit higher amperage than this controller.
Okay.
For the higher power. So
thanks for the clarification on that, JP. I appreciate it. Some of the things that I noticed that you'll want to be careful with is these are steel fenders. This is a steel chain cover, so if you're getting on and you scratch those over time, they could rust a little bit. And some people use a little nail polish to touch it up. Do you have any tips on that?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Nail polish is a really great way to try to match up color and stuff like that. Also, if you're kind of rough on bikes and stuff, you may want to go with like a matte black color because those are really easy to fix scratches. You know, you can just
that's a good point. That's a great point, and that is one of the other colors. So I like the gunmetal. It blends really nicely with the black accents and stuff, but you know, like he's saying, it's a little bit easier to touch up the black. So just keep that in mind. I mean, these bikes, a lot of bikes choose steel fenders because they're sturdier than aluminum. They don't get bent out of place quite as easily. They add a tiny bit of weight, but they're not quite as loud because they're not bouncing around like plastic and some of those things. And since you have a suspension fork here, you're going to be creating a little bit more comfort and stability on the main frame, but the fender up front is going to be bouncing up and down, and I haven't noticed any buzzing or anything. It's really good width, it's really good positioning, it feels strong, and then they've got the headlight mounted to the arch on the suspension fork, so it's also going to travel up and down versus if it was up here on head tube, or maybe up here at the cockpit on the handlebar, but then it gets a little crowded with these cables. So I feel like the cable management's pretty good. It actually doesn't look too cluttered considering there are so many cables here, because you've got the external button pad, very easy to reach, and the cable reaches all the way. Sometimes with these really wide swept back cruiser bars, it doesn't quite reach and they're not able to get the controller nearby or that throttle. So this has throttle on demand even at assist level 0. I love that. Coming back down to the suspension fork, this is a bit more basic. It's a Zoom Aria. It's a spring suspension, 30mm steel stanchions, and it has preload adjust, but no full lockout. So you can preload that spring if you're someone who's a bit heavier, or maybe you've got a bunch of cargo and then it's not going to go down quite as far. It's sort of preloaded. Or if you're like me, I'm a pretty lightweight guy and I kind of want to have as much bounce in that thing as I can. So in a way, you get a full suspension feel here from those slightly wider tires, suspension fork, probably about 63mm of travel here, even though it's about 100mm of visual travel. We were testing it and I'm guessing about 63. And then 40mm of travel back there on that suspension seat post. So pretty comfortable, pretty utilitarian ride. I categorize this as a cruiser, but also as a commuter ready, because it does have the rack and the lights.
Yeah, it's kind of a hybrid, you know. It's got a little bit it's got a nice upright riding position like a cruiser does, but it also is got the rack and the lights and the brake lights, so you're safer if you're cutting across the city, and and also with the larger battery upgrade options, you'll be able to really increase the range.
And that is so cool. I'm excited to check out the GT a little bit, but the Sport coming in at that price again, $22.95, weighed the whole bike with the battery on it, 60.8 pounds, and then 7.7 pounds on the battery. So you could always take that off if you're putting it on a car rack. We did come over here with like a hitch rack, and different people have different racks. Sometimes it's a hanging style, and even if you get a step through bike like this, you can get this adapter, crossbar adapter, and it goes right here, so you can hang these bikes. But I would always take the battery off in that case because it reduces the weight significantly. It's going to be easier on your car. Another thought that comes to mind, if you live somewhere where it's extremely hot or extremely cold, it's a good idea to store the battery in kind of a cool, dry location. So it is nice that the battery comes off so easily. And JP's got the keys in this one over here, so you just twist it, it's spring loaded, there's a little handle. I'm gonna will you stabilize the front of the bike here? There we go, thank you. Just didn't want to knock it over. And that's what it looks like. There we go, 14 amp hours, 672 watt hours. There's that USB, and there's a little LED charge level indicator built right in. That's what the frame looks like. Pretty good stuff. And then if you just kind of set it there and click it back in, I think that's, this might go for the key. You can just put that back on there or something. Also, you'll notice that the kickstand right here, it is adjustable height, which is really nice. And the power cable for the motor does have a quick disconnect point, but be careful if you're kicking the kickstand. You don't want to kick this cable and maybe bump it out of place or something, because that is one of the more sensitive parts, and then your motor wouldn't work. I kind of like that they put it over here on the left hand side and that it tucks right up in between like that disc brake rotor and the frame. A lot of other motors kind of plug in on the right side, and you'll see there's already a shifter cable going on here, so you don't want to necessarily overload it or have it be too cluttered. Again, these are kind of prototypes. Is that how the final one's gonna?
This is a prototype, but the power will come out of this side.
Okay.
But the extra slack that's there will be taken up, so that the cable's just a little bit longer on this motor. So in the future, that'll be kind of tucked in and probably zip tied a little bit closer there, so you can't you don't have to worry about kicking it and bumping it out of place.
Good to know, JP. I appreciate that feedback. Again, these are about 19-inch frames. I measured the reach, the standover height, all that stuff back at the site, and it did a little bit of an estimate because I think it's going to be about an inch shorter than this. If you're someone who has that lower inseam, you can swap this suspension seat post out for just a standard rigid seat post at 27.2mm, and you can drop that saddle even lower. So that was the takeaway. I was going to go into the display next, but let me hit the drivetrain real quick, and if there's anything you're thinking about that maybe I've missed, I'd love to hear it. This is Shimano Altis, so it's a step up from the entry-level component group from Shimano. 11 to 32 tooth cassette, 9 speeds, so the increments are really fine. You get 9 steps, and it's not like a huge difference. You can really find a relaxing, comfortable pedal cadence for yourself, and I like that. I mean, a lot of these kind of go with like Shimano I don't know, the Tourney TX or something. The Altus is definitely a step up, and it's got a little barrel adjuster back here. So over time, as that cable stretches, you can come down here. You don't even have to use any tools. You can turn this. I think I usually turn it to the left because that kind of unscrews it, and it adds a little bit more distance in this cable housing, and that compensates for the stretch in the shifter cables. But you're not going to have to worry about that with the brake levers because, again, they are hydraulic and they have adjustable reach right in here, so you can bring those in a little bit if you're someone with smaller hands. Love that they've got that flick bell. They've got an adjustable angle stem. Make sure you keep an eye on this, keep it tight, because over time it could kind of loosen up a little bit if you're going off big curbs. There's a lot of leverage here with these swept back handlebars, and it's a quill stem, so it can go up or down, kind of raise this little headset cap and kind of tighten and make some adjustments right there. I feel like that's all the stuff that stands out to me, but I mean, I just love that it has the lights and the reflective sidewalls, because safety is kind of a big deal if you're zipping around town.
Yeah, definitely. If you're commuting, you want people to be able to see you, you know, and that's key, I think.
Absolutely.
So,
stopping, having enough power, and you definitely do. This is a zippy bike.
Yeah.
Oh, and I should call out that it uses a cadence sensor down here that's sealed. So see that? It's a 12 magnet sealed sensor. It's compact. A lot of the bikes are kind of going in this direction, but the older bikes had a big thing. You could physically see the magnets and they could get bent out of place, and it was not as reliable as these. So everything on this is pretty great. Pretty great choices going on. There's the trigger throttle. I'm going to go into the display, but JP, have I missed anything? You want to call anything out before I do that?
No, I can't really think of anything. Seems like you've done a very thorough job as usual.
That's the goal. So. That's the goal. We're gonna try to give you guys the best feedback we can so you can make an informed decision. So this is the cockpit, right? Pretty nice. The handlebars come back to you, and they actually reduce a lot of the vibration. They give that upright body position so your back and neck aren't going to be stiff if you're riding. Even if you're riding over some bumpy terrain, this bike's going to give you that comfort. So one of my second e-bike ever was actually kind of a comfort commuter type of bike, very much like this, and I really enjoyed it for that reason. But it did have the rear rack battery, and I remember it just rattling a little bit more, and I couldn't use as much of the space. So for me, this is a real win, this design. To turn the display on, there's like a power button over here, so I'm actually turning it off real quick. This is the, what did you call it? What's the company?
Big Stone is the manufacturer.
Yeah, it's nice and big. You know, it's easy to see, and it does swivel a little bit. It is not removable, so at a bike rack, you know, if it's parked outside, it could take some more sun and a little bit of rain or something, but they're all designed to be water resistant, and because of those big handlebars, it's a little bit more protected at the center right there. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it on by pressing that power button. Comes to life pretty quickly. And there's a whole bunch of information on this thing. So we've got a voltage for the battery up here, and that's kind of a more advanced way to read how full the battery is. But you've also just got an infographic here with 5 ticks. Each tick represents 20% step. It'd be kind of nice if there was like a percentage or 10 ticks or something, but with such a big battery, this is pretty good. You know, it gets the job done. Mode, so we're in power mode, but you can take it to normal or eco by going into settings by holding the set button. We'll show you that in a minute, but we're in power mode right now. Current speed, it's 0 because we're standing still. Pedal assist level, 0, but the throttle does work in 0, so that's kind of nice. You know, this is a more advanced bike in that sense. Thank you so much, JP.
Yes, sir.
I like that you can zip around like a scooter, and you don't have to worry about, oh, if I pedal, is it going to trigger the motor? But it means that as soon as you turn the bike on, if you hit that, the bike can kind of take off on you, and that is a powerful motor. So, you know, respect the bike, turn it off when you're, like, before you get off, and wait maybe until you're on the bike to turn it on so it doesn't get out of control. So info, we're in trip 2 right now, but I think if we press set, it goes up to timer, like trip timer, odometer, and trip 1. So it's a pretty easy to navigate system. And then I think if we tap the power button, that's what gives us the backlighting. You can see a little infographic light right there, and the lights come on. And then what else? I think if we hold minus, there's walk mode, which is nice, just in case you're out and about and you get a flat tire or something and you're all loaded up with gear. This is a 60-pound bike, so, you know, having a little bit of support is nice, and that's a nice smooth way to do it versus the throttle, which you kind of have to hold the whole time. It could be uncomfortable. If we hold the set button for just a second, it goes into the different menus. And so right now we're at menu 0, and it allows us to adjust those power levels. So normal, eco, power. I'm just using the plus and minus buttons to do that. We'll leave it in power. Then we can clear the trip distance if we just press minus. And it clears it. Then in this one, we've got max speed. So we've just kind of got it completely open right now. It doesn't mean that it can go 62 miles per hour, but it does mean that we could lower it. You know, the default top speed is 20 miles per hour. But I think depending on your weight, if you're someone who's a little bit lighter, you could go a little bit faster than that. And if you're someone who's a little intimidated, or maybe you just want to increase your range, you can lower the top speed to 15 miles per hour. And there you go. That's one way to do it. So go to the next one. We've got tire size. These are 26-inch tires, so we're good there. Miles per hour or kilometers per hour. I'm going to leave it in MPH because we're in the US. And then we're back to our modes, power, normal, or eco. I don't need to adjust those, so I'm just going to hold set. And there we go. We're done. We've gone through like all the different display menus and stuff, but we haven't shown you the little welcome kit that you get. Got a nice little manual right here, a charger. This is a 1.5 pound 2 amp charger, so it is going to take 6.5 to 7 hours to fully charge the battery, but most of the time people don't get down to 0, so just a few hours probably take you back to full. Little tool kit. Yeah, and as far as the charger being so small and lightweight, it's nice that you can toss that in a bag, or maybe you could get a trunk bag or one of those panniers, the little bags on this rack, and you could take the charger with you, so that if you kind of out and about and then a friend invites you over for dinner a little bit further away, and you can charge it up during a meal. That's cool.
Yeah, it's a good thing. I'd like to maybe talk about add a couple of things that I thought of when you were going through the display court.
Sure.
One of the things about E-Lux is we want to have the most comfortable riding bike you can have. Because you spend more time on an e-bike than you do a regular bike.
And you go further.
And you go further.
Yeah.
So there's a few things, but we also want to have a high performance bike. So we have to try to keep these things in mind when we're designing. So to give you an example, with our step-through bike, we designed it so you can get the seat very, very low, because a lot of ladies like to be able to touch the ground with both feet when they're sitting on the seat, instead of having to stand on the ground and jump up onto the seat. So we designed the step-through version so that you can get on and off very easily. And also for people that maybe have a bad hip or a bad knee, or maybe they're a surfer and they want to have a surfboard rack on the side of their bike.
That's true.
We have more gender neutral colors.
I was gonna say
matte black, yes.
Yeah.
And white, so that you can, so that guys are a little bit more comfortable if they wanted to get, that color.
Good call.
So sometimes ladies or guys, when they're new to e-bikes, they may be a little bit nervous about riding one because of the power and stuff like that. So the power, normal, and eco modes control how hard the bike accelerates. So if someone is just new to e-bikes, we can put it in the eco mode, and then they can get on it and it accelerates half as hard. It's a nice smooth acceleration.
Yeah.
Seat low, they can touch the ground, they can accelerate slowly, and then as they get more and more comfortable, they can adjust that up to normal mode or to power mode if they really want to scoot.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I kind of glazed over it before talking about the colors, but being able to get black in the high step or in the step through, and then the gloss white, those are great options. And just like you said, this is kind of a peppier bike, especially I'm in power mode, and we got the top speed is kind of open right now, so it's like it really goes, which is satisfying. And again, if you've got some extra gear, or you're a larger person, it's nice to have that power when you need it. So
the other thing that's kind of a cool thing that people don't really think about all the time is having some bikes have pedal assist, and some bikes have throttle, and some bikes have both. And I think it's really nice to have both, because maybe I'm down on the boardwalk and I'm I want to go, the speed limit's 10 miles an hour, so I can put it on pedal assist too, and I don't have to think about anything. I mean, I'm a motorcycle guy, and when I first got involved with e-bikes, I was like, oh, I'll always use the throttle, I'll never use pedal assist. But it's nice to just kind of cruise along and not have to think. But then you see your friend, you can hit the throttle and you can blast,
and it overrides. It's full throttle, guys.
So
that's a big deal.
Yeah, then you don't have to mess with the up and down on the pedal assist. But another point, a lot of people will use pedal assist. What's really great about e-bikes, especially if someone's got some type of an issue with like a knee or a hip, they need to get motion. So they'll get on an e-bike, and with pedal assist, they can get a lot of motion without having to do a lot of work. But if you put pedal assist on level 2 and say it's going 10 miles an hour, if you want to go 12 miles an hour, you're going to have to pedal harder to do that.
That's true.
So you'll pedal harder to go because you want to go faster, and then you can ease back up and you can just have the bike doing most of the work, and then you can do that again. And that's a really good way with people that are trying to get their maybe get through an injury and that kind of thing, or also maybe get out and exercise a lot more.
Well, thank you so much. I think that we should do that right now. You want to hop on the high step here and I'll follow you around?
Yeah, sure.
Get some riding going. I got my helmet on. I think JP might have left his in the car, but we're in an empty parking lot here, so we'll just ride safe. I want to set a good example here for you guys. So I'm going to take this one up. It looks like it's also in power mode. I'm going to take it up into level 5. Go ahead and take off, buddy, and I'll just follow along.
All right.
Looking good. Looking good. Okay, and I'm gonna juice it right now. I can. As with most pedal assists that uses a cadence sensor, there's a little bit of a delay here, but there's 12 magnets, so it's kind of the most that I've seen. It's pretty responsive. You just want to time that carefully. If the motor's still going and you've stopped pedaling, you can use those brake levers to completely cut the power. And now I'm going to do some throttle. Nice. You can hear a little bit of a zing there just because it is a geared motor. But, you know, not too bad, especially with the wind and the breeze here. And not a lot of noise on those fenders because it's we're in such a, I don't know, smooth environment. I'm trying to maybe get a little bit of off-road here for you, but there's just not a lot of spots to do it. And I want to vandalize the property. Maybe I'll go off the curb over here for a second. Okay, and you can hear there's a little bit of a tinging noise. That's just because the chain is bouncing into that steel chain cover, which is really nice. It's going to keep your pants clean and stuff, but a little bit of noise there. Hey, buddy.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. We were driving by and you said this is an old home of like Road and Track magazine or something?
That's correct, yes. This was Road and Track magazine, Hearst publication. So
that is cool.
They got the sign right there, actually. So.
Oh, Hearst magazines. Yeah, we was at the Hearst Castle the other day in Southern California, and they had like this big media empire.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, really neat to see one of their buildings. And apparently Kobe Bryant owns this thing now.
Yes, that's the scuttlebutt around town that Kobe bought this building, and I'm not sure what he's going to do with it, how he's going to develop it, if it's going to turn into some.
We'll have to check it out next time we're in town.
Yeah, that'd be cool. It'd be cool to see.
Very cool.
See what happens here.
Good stuff. You guys, that's the E-Lux Malibu. Oh, thank you so much, JP, for hanging out and taking us on this cool tour of SoCal.
Yeah, thank you, Court. Really enjoyed it and appreciate your time.
For the full written review, all those specs and measurements on the E-Lux Malibu, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. Of course, have fun out there, ride safe. Love you guys. We'll see you next time.